Well, we'll be going down.
Well, this is the last one without a full complement.
Yeah. That's what the names.
Let us begin by acknowledging that we are gathered today in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral, present, and future territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Today we gather with the intent followed by the Living Peace and Fellowship Treaty, with respect, cooperation, and coexistence. We are all treated people. Nova Scotia recognizes African Nova Scotians as a distinct founding people with a 400-year history and over 50 historic land-based communities. The province formally acknowledges this legacy of over 400 years, predating Canada's Confederation. By celebrating African Heritage Month each year, we are promoting the UN Decade for People of African Nova Descent. And being that this is African Heritage Month, I'll be reading this acknowledgement also for the month when I mentioned the meeting. So I now call our meeting of town council for February 10th, 2026 to order. I will ask for approval of the agenda or additions.
Move to the agenda be accepted as circulated.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Second.
I know sometimes we don't put this on the agenda part, but in the closed session grounds, we were going to add personnel to grounds to closed session. When last time Council covered that, we should have done it, we're gonna approve the agenda and not just sort of go to closed session, so we're gonna have a few mover and seconder one.
That's right. It's so amended.
So amended. And this is seconders.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor signify aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. You have received the regular council meeting minutes from January 29th, 2026. There any errors or omissions? We have, we accept these minutes as they were presented. Announcements by council members. Does anyone have, council further?
I have, I had two items, but I was just, this is election week, so everybody's voting. And on Thursday, this week, at 11 o'clock is our monthly council cafe. And this week it will involve, the host will be Mayor Suzanne Rose Scott and myself, Councillor Carter. This Thursday, 11 to 12 o'clock. You can just turn up and chat, ask questions, give us ideas, and have a good talk.
Okay. Any other reviews? We won't talk about the Patriots. Like I said, these are some of us. So, we will move on to public input session, and there was one person who had an input. So you may come forward and state your name and your civic address here in the room. You can sit up that chair or you can stand. Okay, great.
This is like grade 4 year, right? You're making a speech or something like that.
Yeah.
So my name is Heather Ledford. I live on the 88 Pleasant Street in the Home Bay. I lived here since 2007, but I'm still a CFA. Totally get it. That's good. I'm fine with it. Last meeting, you had a letter from me, which was the one piece of correspondence. When I looked at the meeting on YouTube, I was disappointed, to be quite honest. It was one piece of correspondence with respect to the animal bylaw and a request to have a look at the animal bylaw and to update it to reflect what other communities have done by including all domestic animals. I think in 2026, when we know better, we do better. And I did quote Maya Angelou in the one letter, one piece of correspondence, because I think it's just a wonderful thing to say. When we know better, we do better. This is not about blame and shame. It's not about pointing and blaming someone that's your cast out that's for climate change and the reason why, whatever. The conversation that we had when I watched it was a little disappointing. I looked at faces and the teacher inside me like, they didn't prepare for the quiz. I didn't know if everybody actually read the letter. I think some people did read the letter. And I think that was a wonderful moment to say, hey, you know what? I actually didn't have time to read this, and we actually reviewed it, it's beneficial for everyone. Because the conversation that developed was very fractured. It didn't really refer to an awful lot of big sound, what I thought were really quite sound, well thought out, rational reasons for consideration. While I can appreciate that it's going to go forward to the policy and strategy committee, and that's great. But if you move forward with the same level and quality of conversation that you had in that meeting, that's problematic, because what we're doing is we're asking people to change behaviors. We've normalized letting out domestic animals. This isn't because I hate cats. I love dogs, but I shouldn't have to stand up here and defend myself. Nor should it turn into a love cat or I hate cat situation. We know and understand more about the impact on wildlife, for example. So that's kind of a really good solid reason. But what the conversation turned into was a love cat, hate cat kind of conversation. There was a reference to, yes, I had sent a letter in September, and it kind of was completely, we avoided that. It's a spicy conversation, but when you approach that and move forward with the policy and strategy committee with further conversations, you really need to rely on data and common sense, because you're facing people who may have an emotional reaction. You can't control that. But when you counter it with good arguments, then that makes for movement forward and for change, and perhaps get people buying into it. So what I would have preferred happened last week, because some people didn't seem familiar at all with the content of the letter, is just to look through very quickly, because when you move forward into the next meeting, please read it, because there are some really excellent points there. And then when you do have the public coming to you and getting emotional or saying, no, I have a right to this, my cat can do this, or my guinea pig should be allowed to grow in town, whatever the case may be, instead of countering it with, oh, don't worry, we'll talk about something else like wildlife protection or wildlife feeding. It just segued into a tactic of let's divert, let's confuse, let's deny, let's do this and shove about something else. And then we go conversation and it's spicy. I hope that's not what you do with every conversation that gets a little bit spicy. And I hope what you do also understand is you've also set it up for failure, because you deemed it to be emotional. You didn't actually discuss any solid points. And so moving forward, you're going to let someone come in and yell and scream and then give credence to that emotion, as opposed to just sticking to common sense and fact. So in the letter, I did make a mistake. I thought it had been 1988 for the animal bylaw. I was wrong. I believe it's 2014, but it only includes dogs. Does that mean you hate dogs? Of course not. It means the people who construct these laws and bylaws are looking out. It's an about animal welfare. I'm sorry if I'm boring you right now if you're tired, but please just listen. You didn't read the letter last time, so now I'd like to go through it as quickly. Roaming cats especially are a problem, because we don't see ferrets and guinea pigs and hamsters running around. Doesn't mean I hate cats. It just means that's what I see in the community roaming. That's why cats were addressed. So obviously animal welfare is a big issue. And when you're having arguments and conversation and dialogue and constructive, and you're relying on these things, you're asking people to counter that. So if you say, as an animal advocate, hey, animals are at risk of harm from people, other animals, toxins, traffic, whatever, of course, animal welfare is an issue. Cats are robusters, harm to our wildlife. If you're on board with communities in bloom, if you're on board with understanding environmental and ecological impacts, if you're on board with respecting what the kids are doing in the neighborhoods and trying to change lawns into ecological habitats and environments that are attracting wildlife, then you should be on board with that. If you're not, that's okay. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but you can counter it in a logical, rational conversation and dialogue. For property owners, if you, are you time? I'm almost out of time.
No, I'm just wondering that.
Yeah.
Clerk is keeping, okay, no.
Yeah.
People,
I-
so,
But another good point to argue then is about property, right? My dog doesn't go poop on your lawn. Why does your cat get to use my property as a kitty litter box? It's not respectful, it's not appropriate. I'm not sure how people could argue with that too. One of my other issues was we don't have a feral cat problem. You don't want a feral cat problem. If you want to talk to other towns in Nova Scotia that have had one, you can have a great conversation about trap, neuter, and release, the cost, already stressing that over that you know, with everything like that, that's a terrible thing to happen. But when it really comes down to it, we're talking about avoiding unnecessary pain and suffering for animals. That's the number one thing for me. Whether you like cats, like dogs, hate whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I think these arguments stand on their own. And I really think that when you move forward with a conversation, it needs to be more than just who likes cats, who hates cats, or some people feel this way. Well, some people do feel this way. If that makes me a crunchy granola hippie type, they fill my bowl and pass me a spoon because it's the right thing to do. And when you're trying to convince people who have cats, who think that their cat has a right to do this or do that, counter with some good arguments. You can stand on common sense and data when you have these conversations. Okay.
Thank you, Heather. I just wanted to address like the process we're going to policy and strategy. The reason why we take it there is because we get a full staff report. We get your letter again. We have time to read all the information that our staff has prepared for us. And they check other bylaws.
Yeah.
In Nova Scotia and other communities as well. So, that's the reason for sending it off to policy and strategy.
Absolutely, and I fully appreciate that there will be a more involved conversation. My point was that the conversation that was had in that last meeting needed to be a little bit more robust, really, to set the foundation moving forward. And I certainly hope that it is a more robust, thorough conversation. Moving forward.
Now we have presentations and we are pleased to have Bloomberg County Wheels here for an update and we welcome you. You want me to take you the meeting?
Yes,
Yes, thank you.
Mayor Lomas Croft and members of the council. I am the president of Luna County Wheels Jerome Tanner. And with me this morning is our operations director, Darren Lance. We are now entering the third year that we started the last day of our expansion to include all of MODL and the towns of Mahone Bay, Lunenburg, and Bridgewater. We are pleased that we were able to purchase 4 new vans to provide the service for all our residents. In addition, we now have a Toyota van and a Toyota hybrid RAV4 SUV. Having just completed strategic planning, we now have a lot of work to be done to sustain and possibly improve and enhance our program. We would like to offer a Saturday service and possibly longer hours of operation. However, all this takes money. Like most not-for-profit organizations, we have difficulty in obtaining new board members and then retaining them. And if anybody knows of any possibilities for board moves, please send them our way. We do not generate money from our operation to sustain us. Our fares are low and they are meant to be that we are helping people that maybe can't afford a much more expensive system. But we must rely on government, municipalities, and our sponsors to fund us. These funds, unfortunately, do not enable us to expand our services. We are aware of a new initiative from the provincial government regarding accessible standard recommendations for all municipalities, which means that, I guess, if this legislation goes through, all municipalities are to provide accessible door-to-door busing, and they can either do it themselves or contact somebody to do it for them. So we just like to put it out there that we're in the business of doing that, and if we can assist you anyway, please just let us know. And anyway, we'll do that. I will now ask Darren to provide some updates on our operation.
Morning.
Go off the slide, I've got a slide that.
Yeah, do you want me to, did you bring? Oh, I can just find it and to
Yeah.
I just thought you might have been bringing in your own laptop.
I have my laptop here at the end.
No, we've got the presentation too. Taking
Maybe turn
minutes.
on the TV, so would be,
Yeah.
You know, that one being flat is probably good for the people. in the-
So, oh, there's something wrong
Did
with
everybody
the,
see that one? Say?
can you just turn?
Oh, except it's not even showing.
That
One's got a
one,
TV and the other one.
I know.
Had a cable disconnected.
Lauren's been having trouble with them
It's
and
supposed to be a symbol, it's just pressing one button.
I know. I'm just looking for.
Which one is in? That's the issue, right? You don't need to unplug, it's a different. Usually HDMI will override the other things and it will just pop up. With the text.
And it does,
No, I will make that TV.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
Is it something else?
we're having trouble syncing the two again. They got out of sync
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then,
okay.
and once they get out of sync, it's like,
But this one's not even doing that. Yeah, you might as well.
Technology is a wonderful thing, and it works.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're. It's just we have to turn this, we just turn, we can just mute everything.
We don't
Can
want to
you
get
mute
this to
that?
go without doing that one.
Or just, I'm trying to mute it.
I'm not gonna, are the two remotes configured to different TVs right now?
Well, that, the,
They used to both do both, but I'm not getting anything to that one. Yeah. That's so hard about money. Old fashioned button buttons.
we need to turn the volume off both of them.
Can you see that? In the gallery? So,
Yeah.
Marlon? Yeah.
I guess we got one, we'll do with one thing,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
And between meetings, we figure out what's going on now.
Stopped. There we go.
To the next slide. So as Jerome,
Next one.
next slide.
Sorry, I know you're about to get going, but is there any way, is this the screen that is on YouTube or is that the other? This is not connected to the YouTube feed.
I don't know.
You have two computers in front of you, one of them is on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, that one,
Okay,
yeah.
never mind then. It'll be too hard to get it. Normally what we do is we do try to put that on the screen for YouTube as well, so people following along.
Oh, I
watch the
see.
slides. So just if anybody's watching, and you do want to see the slides, they are in the meeting package, so you can bring them up, and I'm
Okay.
sorry, you will have to just look at us while we watch the
Okay.
slides. Thank you very much. Go ahead, sorry.
That's all right. So as Jerome mentioned, we are running we have 6 vehicles. We've got one 4-passenger Toyota RAV4 hybrid. We just basically sold our old bus and purchased this with some help from the provincial government. 7-passenger minivan we've had since the start, and the 4 8-passenger ProMaster vans, which are all wheelchair accessible, and 2 of them have bike racks in them. Our coverage has remained the same. We're mandated to cover the county, and we do, so we cover all Lunenburg County West and the 3 towns as well. We are currently running with 3 full-time drivers, 2 part-time drivers, 9 casual drivers. And the big change is we don't have any volunteer drivers anymore, so we used to have 4 or 5 on our roster at any one time, but some of them have aged out, some of them have moved on to other interests, and so it's a sign of the times, I guess, is volunteering seems to be something that people don't have time for anymore. It's unfortunate and certainly affects our bottom line. Our ridership, so we hit some milestones this summer, with our ridership. It continues to increase, as you can tell. The November, December starts a kind of a downslide again, obviously. When the weather turns cold and snowy, then people tend to not want to move around quite as much, so it tends to slow down during those months and we'll start.
Larry, would you mind opening the door? Oh, Marilyn, you don't have.
We'll start ramping up end of February into March again. But the thing to note here is, since 1992, which is when Senior Wheels started, before we switched over to Lunenburg County Wheels, we have carried over 273 passengers in our vehicle. It's a very impressive milestone. Ridership, so I just threw this slide in here. I just wanted to show that our ridership is increasing in all areas, including Mahone Bay. So we are continuing to engage people and let them know that we are available to them, and which is probably the hardest part about increasing is getting the word out there. Sometimes, and a lot of times, it takes somebody who knows somebody that needs transportation to say, hey, why don't you try this, and then things start moving forward. But yeah, so it's nice to see that we're still on the upward trend. So where are people going? So we've seen since we've started a big tick up in the people that are using us to get to work. Obviously, shopping and errands are the biggest portion. So 29% of our rides roughly are for that purpose. 16.7 is for work, and medical appointments 15.7, which are the top three categories in our transportation. It's not nothing out of the ordinary there, but it's important to note that, you know, a lot of our clients use us for food security, get where they need to go to bring groceries home. So what's new? So as Jerome mentioned, the board went through a strategic planning process. So that was, we had completed our expansion. We just wanted to find out and do some brainstorming on where we're going to go next. So that's what the strategic planning process was for. And as Jerome mentioned, it's thrown a lot of work back at us for trying to decide which avenues to go down, and expanding our hours, moving into Saturdays, offering trips outside our region to hospital facilities, Liverpool, Kentville, Halifax, are all kind of things that we're looking at. As noted, we sold our 2019 8-passenger bus. It was getting to the point that it was going to start costing us a lot of money, so we were able to get some funding and some donations in order to purchase that vehicle. In April, we're looking at doing a restructuring of our office. So we're going to change the operations manager into an executive director. We have a full-time dispatcher now. We want to hire a full-time admin person, bring everything in under our roof, under our control, and help us with, because we'll need more, obviously, staff and hours, because if you have buses out not during our working hours, so if we're spending the hours of our vehicles on Saturdays, then we need somebody in the office to take calls, and so we need the additional manpower to be able to facilitate that. We are looking for funding opportunities, obviously, in order to expand our service into Saturdays and et cetera. And this includes also looking at changing our licensing. So right now we're operating under a nonprofit license. We're looking at moving to a commercial license. So that'll enable us to do some charter type work, like if somebody has a wedding and they need transportation for their guests back and forth, we could do that kind of thing. And that'll help support bringing some additional revenue to help support our door-to-door operation. I do have a request into Mahone Bay for a letter, because one of the conditions of a commercial vehicle license is that all our trips would have to cross a municipal boundary. So what that means is if somebody in Mahone Bay wanted to get picked up at their home and go to the grocery store and then back again, we wouldn't be able to do that trip under a commercial vehicle license. We would need a taxi license. Of course, if we have a taxi license, then we'll have to abide by the bylaws and the fees that are attached to that, and they no longer become a discounted transportation service. So I've asked for the council or to Mahone Bay to consider giving us a waiver or a letter allowing us to continue to operate in the manner that we are without a taxi license. We've gotten a letter from Lunenburg, and Mahone Modal does not have a taxi bylaw, so we're okay there. So if we could get something from you guys to allow us to move forward with this, that would be really great. So just to cap it all off, again, we really appreciate your support. Without the municipality support, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. I think it's great for the residents of your community to have the opportunity to have transportation. And we're glad to be able to support that. Thank you, Ben.
Will you take some questions?
Sure, by all means.
Councillor Farber?
Well, I have 6 questions.
Oh, can you do maybe 2, pass it on to someone else? How's that?
I can start with 2.
Yeah.
Well, my first one is I'd just like some clarification about Jerome's comments about the door-to-door. I didn't quite get what you were.
Well, as we understand it, and it just came to the Rural Transportation Association of what you're part of. And they're gonna be talking about in further detail this Saturday, but apparently there's legislation, this draft information out now from the province that they are gonna require municipalities to transport door-to-door accessible people in their municipalities. Now, they'll probably get government funding to do that, but you can either do it yourself, or you can contract it out to other organizations, like basically you could contract it out to us to do the town of Mahone Bay. And so that's all I know now. Like we received the draft report, but it hasn't gone back to government yet.
Is there any way that you can see that information? Please.
Yeah, I'm sure we can, if this come up, we weren't at accessibility, didn't we? I think it came on at the last accessibility.
Oh, I see, okay.
I know it's a bit in the ether, so I'll
Right,
track
okay.
down something.
Okay.
Those.
I don't know about councillors are interested, I'll be interested in seeing the provincial report on that.
Yeah, if you don't get it, we can certainly send it to the.
Yeah, well, if you wouldn't mind sending it, that makes it all easier. I just send it in to Claire and she can circulate it, you sent the presentation to.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that was specifically accessibility related for people with
That's right.
disabilities.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. So my second question is, this is an essential service. Transportation is an essential service in my mind, even though it's not declared to be so. And it's just so interesting that here it's being done by a not-for-profit organization with municipal funds, but essentially you're the drivers. It's not really a question, it's a comment, but a sign of frustration. I think that there isn't more provincial there is provincial oversight, but. Ensuring that it happens so that you're not struggling along because there aren't enough volunteers or there aren't enough members of the board. Because that is a heartbreaking struggle. Yeah, so it's not really a question, but.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. It's difficult because we know there's more need out there. We know we could probably put a 6 or 7 vehicle on and because we do turn people away quite a bit because we are full. So there is more that we could be doing if we had the means to put more vehicles and drivers on.
And then we're also like we're a volunteer board, but. Because there's so much work to be done, we're more than volunteers and we're all getting burned out. In fact, I this is my last year. I've been driving and being on board now for 15 years and I just need a bit of rest, but anyway, it's not easy.
Yeah. Thanks.
So we're looking forward, Councillor Phelan, welcome back to Councillor Carver is any, to finish something.
Thank you, I appreciated the stats and, saw that in November, we had almost 100 rides out in Home Bay, so. Now I agree with Councilor Carver about. Over the expanse of time since we first started talking to. Your organization and its predecessors, it's incredible how, the kind of consensus of the community about what is the standard, what is a mission critical service, and it's really interesting to see how that's evolved in that over the last decade. I noticed that you've made a solid move to electric vehicles, and we always from time to time have debates around the council table about the economic virtues of doing that beyond the altruism of it. In this and it's pretty clear you would have done a good business case. So I'm wondering, like, from the town's perspective of how it can also be helpful. I think we're 1 year into our 3-year arrangement, or is this we're entering our 2nd year, the 3-year?
No, I think it's gonna be the 3rd year.
This is the 3rd year?
Yeah.
The time flies. This is the 3rd year.
Yeah.
So, I take your point about the pressures on your operating budget. I'm sure they're substantial, but I'm wondering. Like, as it relates to your electronic vehicle and your mandate, I mean, where are you able to charge your station? Are you using municipal charging stations to power up that vehicle, or are you using private
No,
charging stations?
It's not a plug-in it's not a plug-in hybrid, it's powered by the car.
It's a gas.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, because we didn't have the infrastructure available to us.
Right.
To charge a plug-in hybrid or an EV.
Right.
So we decided to go with the regular hybrid.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, like, what other in-kind contributions could a municipality provide you? Considering municipalities have their own utilities, electrical utilities.
Yeah.
And we have, as we have, I think it's 8 charging stations in Holiday now, so.
Yeah, the challenge with transit and then, this always comes up with fleet vehicles, the same thing with our plows. Is without rapid charging, they're
Yeah.
offline too much and that's a challenge. And there is no, as you guys I'm sure know, no rapid charging infrastructure in the county.
Yeah,
So, yeah, we've talked a lot about whether we can encourage rapid charging infrastructure here or provide it. But ultimately, that's a step we haven't taken so far. So I think that's the challenge.
next year. Anyway, thank you for that. So I assume that you'll be coming back at some point in this year to, put in place a longer term arrangement with the various municipalities. As we're entering the last year.
Yeah, in that conversation, again, we're just kind of waiting to see what this accessibility piece looks like, and
Maybe
so.
the other way around. Maybe the municipalities will be voting you. Fair enough, that's a good thing. Thank you for that.
Councillor Carver?
So I only have 2 more because those were brought out during Councillor Feeney's questions. What is the relationship, if any, to the plan, the 100-kilometer plan from HRM? They're working on some kind of transportation plan to improve the 100-kilometer radius. And I think that includes us. I believe.
Yes, it does, yeah. I don't think it's really clear right now how much that's going to affect us. I would anticipate if they put in some mass transit transportation that would include the Mahone Bay, Bridgewater area, that we would act as a feeder for that. But other than that, I'm not sure. It's not clear, I guess, at this point, how it's going to impact.
I think too is that right now the emphasis is in the Halifax Dartmouth area. Into the ferry and that type of stuff and so. In fact, there's a new crown corporation now called Link Nova Scotia. Yeah, so you can go online and check it out. And so we went to a presentation not so long ago, and they're doing a lot of work, but it's expensive and they. What we see as our role is what Darren said, that we would feed into a mass transit system. There would be like a fleet of buses that would run the 100 series highway, and we would feed into that.
Thanks, and the other, thank you, that's to be continued, that whole thing. So, and then the other question is around the taxi bylaw, is that new this year, because we've been operating for several years now?
Yeah,
Without that waiver.
It's because we would like to switch over to the commercial vehicle license.
Okay,
So under the nonprofit license, it's not an
Okay.
issue for us. But
so
once-
that's what triggered it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all. You're welcome.
So, thank you for your presentation. I was very interested to hear how the changing from nonprofit to commercial. So are you giving stand as far as the charitable organization or, and you will think that your rates will help make up the difference or?
No, it's not gonna, the commercial vehicle side of it really is not gonna affect your door-to-door
Okay.
part of the equation at all. We're just looking at any way that we can try and generate some revenue to help support that door-to-door operation and be able to expand it. Because, I get calls on a weekly basis for people looking for transportation outside our area to hospitals. And we just don't have the means to provide that right now. And a lot of our clients are asking us, to expand your hours because they are using us for work. And their work doesn't end at 5 o'clock. It ends at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And they have to either walk home or take a taxi. And then if they're taking a taxi, they're working an hour to drive home. So, there's a lot of factors that are kind of pointing that there is a need for us to try and expand, but as with anything, when you do more, it costs more. So we need to get that part of the equation lined up before we can offer it.
Well, I think the Saturday, we moved to Saturdays, sounds really interesting because, there are many people who work Monday to Friday, and then on Saturdays, which would be normally a tour day, shopping day, and it would be nice to have transportation to different parts of the county. So, thank you for that, and I just want to make sure the clerk has noted that letter with a waiver for our taxi bylaw. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. See you next year.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Will that waiver require a motion? I think it will. Yeah, I actually think it might be better to refer to policy and strategy, just to have a little discussion on the taxi bylaw, just otherwise has come up at the staff level, would it be? So that'll turn it around pretty quick, so the policy and strategy, just so we can have it.
Right, so this is a timely matter to this.
Well, yeah, as soon as because I have our application on hold, pending, trying to get the waivers from the 3 towns that I need to proceed, because I don't want to move forward and have to deny people rides.
So, can I know that we move the request for a waiver of the taxi bylaw, the policy and strategy? Or do you have to do that? Yeah, I mean, it's always, we don't do motions under this item on the agenda, so I think we just say it was requested to be added to policy that the agenda. I don't think we, have to have two motions for that, we've had that come up other times, if other councils would agree. We're just simply out the policy strategy.
Clerk, there's that.
Mhm.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you very much.
And a special place is, on your pending retirement.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna be around, so. But just I'm in an active position.
Yeah, great service. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your service.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, we are going to move on to item 6, which is correspondences and is there any discussion with our correspondences?
Mayor, I'd refer item 6.2, the letter with the detailed infrastructure funding requests, from the Mahone Bay United. Sought plug to the budget process.
Okay, so seconded by Council Calvin. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify aye. Opposed, no.
Mayor, on item 6.3, the letter from Mr. McEwen, CAO of Modal, around the Regional Emergency Measures Organization. I did notice in that document that they referred to Mahone Bay's Fire Hall as a official comfort station. And on page, whatever page that was, so you see, I guess it's like the 5th or 6th slide, Lunenburg County, Lunenburg Remo Comfort Centers, Town of Mahone Bay 1, Fire Hall no staff. And I'm wondering, I think, I'm sure that's correct, I'm sure that's right, I'm just wondering again, because we always get into these debates about the when an event would occur that would trigger use and access to an official remote comfort station, and I'm wondering, maybe the CA just chime in on a little refresher on what exactly are we implying by the official comfort center versus a comfort center that the fire hall kind of opens up on an ad hoc basis.
Yeah, I mean, Remo has, I think, a notion of a really clear cut system. And ultimately, most of the comfort centers that exist are open when they want to for their own reasons. But Remo could ask the comfort center to be activated as part of an overall activations. So that would be a scenario when Remo has actually activated the emergency center and has an active emergency, reasonably speaking, like in our area. Or there's a need to, it's not an evacuation center, so at least it's not a Remo evacuation center, I should say. We do have, we can use it for evacuation of the nursing home, the school, hopefully we've always done that. But as far as the Remo Comfort Center, it would be a region around Mahone Bay that, needs a comfort center to be activated to go on the power outage, something like that. And they would say, Mahone Bay, can you stand up the comfort center? There is a protocol, but it's almost always the case that comfort centers have opened voluntarily before that protocol would be triggered, because the standards to require it are actually a lot higher, like it's 72 hours preparedness for an outage than most people's actual desire to get comfort, right? In less than 72 hours. So yeah, in practice, like I don't know of an example where Remo has actually asked that a comfort center be activated. And we do still have a challenge with the volunteers needed for ours. So this would be an activation where staff and fire department members would be required to support.
So that's where my head was going. I know we attempted in the past to organize kind of formal, volunteer functions to open up the center, and based on the note from Remo, it seems like it looks like the other 25 centers across Lunenburg County they must have paid staff, I guess, kind of get a check, so they have dedicated resources.
If it's a fire department, it's usually an auxiliary function, and our fire department doesn't have an auxiliary, it is something that we discussed quite a bit. These calls for volunteers, might be more effective if they were actually the basis of a fire department auxiliary, which tends to tie those volunteers more closely to the department over time. That is something fire departments typically initiate, and our fire department had not wished to do so. So, you know, we've kind of walked this line where we say, would you like to be a volunteer for the comfort center, not fire department auxiliary? And so I do think most of those are volunteer,
Yeah,
but the volunteers are tied to the comfort center itself as an auxiliary.
But I did bring that up at the Rainbow meeting in November. Particularly because our, you know, Kathy will go down and open it up.
right, right.
Richard and Kathy going, they've done the same.
If the.
And they said they won't interfere with us doing that anymore. That's up to us, you know, that it could happen organically. That will interfere with, you know, at one time they said you're not allowed to do that.
Well, they discouraged it.
Yes,
Yeah,
well, they no
I think
longer,
reasonably speaking, we just don't want to send confusing messages to people
Right.
about what to do in an emergency.
so we would call it a warning center or a cooling center instead of.
And just so fair enough. I mean, I think from time to time, maybe once or even twice a winter, once I think last winter, the fire hall did open up because there was a long power outage. But that wasn't under the official umbrella of an emergency Remo situation. So I guess under that umbrella of Remo's direction, I'm assuming that Remo would phone somebody in Mahone Bay and they would say, we want you, you're required to open up your comfort center, which is at the fire hall. I'm just wondering about like how the mechanics of that occur. Who do they phone? Who do we phone? How does the center get opened up? Because I think we are relying on one or two people that are traditional volunteers. Anyway, we don't need to solve the problem at this meeting.
Yeah,
I'm kind of
if
curious.
it's a Remo activation, that means that we've activated staff resources in response, so that will go through the ECC.
Okay,
And staff will make sure it opens, but we will also try to get volunteers to come in and backfill, because staff can't keep a center open indefinitely.
of course.
So that's, you know, it's a never before tested thing, but it is something we've discussed at the level of the Remo, you know, trial organization, like we do run these scenarios that could we get a comfort center open in a short period of time. It's more of a sustaining the effort where volunteers would really be helpful.
Mhm. Okay, thank you, man.
Yes.
Upon that conversation, at the last meeting, one of the meetings I attended, I asked whether councillors were able to participate in the volunteer crews, because I had formerly understood that council members were not to participate in staffing those centers. Because they wanted to keep the messaging absolutely clear, but the answer to the question about councillor participation in the warming center, comfort center is fine. That is, the absolute happening, so that adds to the staffing.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, we're a small town, so, you know, to take 7 or in this case 4 people and say you're not allowed to volunteer, that would be big.
Yeah,
I do think it was about because some former councillors, not in the whole day, had gone to those things and told people stuff and confused them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mayor, we required to have a budget motion regarding the 26-27 proposed budget, or is this item, the Remo budget, which I believe Mahone Bay's chair of it's about $23,700. Is that just going to be referred to the budget, woven into the budget?
It was usually, because our budget is a little late, and because of trying to confirm this budget for Remo, we usually do get pre-approval. Yeah, if that's.
Would you?
Council have any concerns about it?
Mayor, maybe if you'd like to entertain, I'd move that the council approve the proposed budget for 2026-2027 for Remo. And then the town of Home Bay's funding will be $23,714.39.
I just wanted to make sure, you all are aware of the increase in change in form.
Yes.
We just want you to be sure that you are aware of that before we. Councilor Bradley?
Yes, I must say, I find the percentage of the increase seems to be greater for Mahone Bay than for any of the other 4 units. So proportionately, it's affecting us more.
Yes,
than the other
and yeah.
4 units.
And I think you'll find that with some other projects that are coming forward, because we've been paying the lease of all them, so they have taken, in some of our joint services that we have in this area, they'll be having a base, and then they'll do the population add-on.
Yes, the unified assessment.
Yes,
Uh, So, yeah, I think migrating away from population, migrating to assessments probably.
Yeah,
the
that's
best-
just different, but the idea of adding a lease charge is kind of becoming standard, and I guess
Yeah.
ability services, there's
Yeah.
cost to have it in the first place. It also helps potentially for MJSC to grow to
Yeah.
include Lunenburg.
Yeah.
Because this model can then be applied, and that might reduce our costs a little bit.
I mean, I think that's what so this first year is a bit of a gulp because we're establishing the base rate, but over the next decade, as assessments grow. I mean, we may pay more on ratio basis, or less, depending on how our assessments grow relative to our peers, but.
Presumably, the ability to pay will also increase if assessment increases, so it shouldn't be tempered.
So I had another question about the proposed budget as presented in their document. It's just that it's question about the numbers. So on page 17, where they have the proposed, but it's in page 17, the proposed budget. If you look at the total remodel budget, look at it very bottom. You'll see that the 26-27 number is smaller. Less than the 25-26 number. And yet the change column shows the $75,000 without a bracket. We're making it look like it's an increase. So I'm just a little confused by it now, but I don't know if it's worth going into that now or coming back at another time during the budget discussion, with whether it represents an inaccuracy or.
I think it's just the positive of the grant revenue, which the way it's displayed is not offset. Like, it's not so much that the other number should be negative, that should appear as a negative, since this is a list of costs. So it would be 480,000, which is in fact 70, well, it's not 70 higher, but I see this. I know, I just lost my train of thought when I looked at that and I said, well, yeah, 400, it's, no, it's not, it's still $10,000 off. Not sure what happened there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So if you go back 2 pages to see the grant writing, you'll see in 25-26, there's the number showing 0. And then we get $100,000 from someone in 26-27, which is what brings that number down to 380 instead of 480. Which is why it changes the totals for the whole day.
I think the total Reno budget number's wrong, right?
Yeah, we should be showing the grants contingency change as negative 26,000
Exactly.
and the 100,000,
Yeah.
and you get the, yeah, that's right.
Anyway.
Thank you, I'll leave that.
Since we're on,
Very good that you kept on that.
since we're on, I guess just to the point the council also made about the $100,000 coming from somewhere. I guess we should acknowledge that with all of the attention the province is paying to emergency services, this contribution is the province's contribution, is a new effort and commitment on their part. And in our region, we have a recall, but in other regions, that's intended to get remotes up and running.
Yeah, my apologies. I looked at DEM and I put the name in.
Yeah.
Department of Emergency Management.
Yeah, and it is.
Yes, it would have helped if they have a period between the initial.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for.
All right. Ready
Oh,
for the question?
Oh, that's a motion, okay, well, that was
Ready for
discussion.
the question? All those in favor, signify aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried.
Your worship, if I may, I do have a question about 6.2 again, and that was the Mahone Bay United.
Yes.
And their request for support around the irrigation system. Somehow, it's a kind of free floating question, and I don't have to answer it now, I'm just gonna put it out. It's how will we manage an irrigation system during the drought? So I'll just leave that, and it could be directed somewhere else, but.
It's certainly something we even discussed when the representatives of Buffalo United were in here previously.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was at planning advisory or council, but not to me.
And just for completeness sake, can we agree to receive the file 6.1?
Yes.
Have a motion.
I guess it should.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
The motion, and second by Barbara. Thank you. All those in favor, signify aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on, I, can the clerk just note, further discussion on the irrigation should come up at some agenda or some conversation,
Yeah, it already will, but.
No, but
I've had a conversation with
Yeah,
him, but it is worth noting.
It came up here in the meeting, and I think that's something we need to know, because we have to be clear on it, because we're working on a shout, if you're gonna. You have the policy. of
Oh, there's a
using
lot of
shout.
interconnectedness.
Yeah, so I think we need to look at what we're doing in this case. Thank you. All right, item 7, staff reports. The staff reports of council. Are there any, I see some dates have moved around on that.
Yeah, not doing change, certain things that are being targeted to be provided to council by March in order to be reflected in the budget. And things that are not related to this year's budget may be pushed to after the budget process. I think there's only one. So the stormwater management plan and some of the other ones that are, we're not really gonna get into much until the budget process is underway.
Okay. Any questions? Oh, Council Crowe.
It's a question about sometimes the dates, the ETA changes in the
That's what I
staff
was
report
saying.
from month to month. And I wonder, well, a couple of things, I wonder if we could be provided a reason for the change. But also if it could be marked with the staff report that this is moved up from the original.
I'm happy to highlight the changes. I don't know about always, I'm happy to verbally provide reasons for the changes, but usually like this is just a document that tracks. All the new stuff that comes in displaces these items and we just look at it, talk as a staff group, like, when is this gonna come? What does it make sense? What are the moving pieces that are needed for this? And so I just shift them based on those conversations. It's just, you know, there are reasons, but so I think it would be better if we highlight them and then people can ask. This one changed and I'm curious why, if that's okay, but highlighting the changes is easy. We'll do that.
Thank you.
When you complete, there only was 3 business days between the last council meeting and this last.
Yeah, I know.
And you got, you know.
Mayor, I move that we accept the staff report.
Thank you, Councilor Carver, second by Councilor Wilson. Any further discussion? No, calling for the question, all those in favor, signify aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you. The next 7.2, those. Deferred.
I'm trying because we're finally this week. My
Yeah,
understanding is the notices are going out, that they have cleared their various requirements.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna suggest in terms of deferral is those notices give a date to appeal. If the neighboring properties do want to bring some of the council's attention
Okay.
that they're concerned about. And there are only specific grounds for that.
okay.
So that will end up coming not to the February 26th meeting because of the timeline of the notice, but to the March 10th meeting. So I would say it's most appropriate actually, since we're here and you already have a chance to defer, if you wish to defer again. To defer it until council would have heard any concerns from neighboring properties in response to the notice. Which means to the March 10th meeting as opposed to just by one meeting, but of course it's your prerogative, there's no reason we could have talked about this years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we want to make the motion and then we can discuss? Or,
I'm happy to
Okay.
defer
okay,
again. But I just want to make clear for anybody who's watching or is in the gallery that this is to discuss a recommendation about making Hedge Row one way between Pleasant and Maple Streets.
And we've given the most notice possible, there's a little bit 2 full years by the time we act without it.
yes, is there a second for that motion?
Happy to second it,
Okay.
just to speak to, so the staff report is not been edited since its original
No,
craft,
it's just the same.
since it was originally crafted. But because we've talked about this item from time to time over the last 2 years, while we waited patiently for the developer to kind of get their train on the tracks. I think there has been feedback, that could inform the report. And specifically the decision to only have the one way going from Pleasant to Maple versus Pleasant all the way down to Palm. And so there hasn't really been a need to kind of weigh in on this topic too much, but I am curious to the rationale for not editing the document at all to reflect any of that feedback, and I wonder if there'd be any wisdom in trying to contemplate if there's a reason why that wouldn't be a good idea to extend the one way all the way to Pond. I think if there is a staff recommendation to keep it at Maple, like fair enough, but I just think that should be the report, if we are gonna revisit it on March 10th, for the report to have kind of get us to a conclusion. I think it would be better to have some telegraph from the developer and or staff about why Maple Street as the demarc is better than Palm. I mean, I think we all have individual impressions about why or why not, but I think we should not rely on the old document and then have the same conversation we've had 5 times.
Yeah,
So
that asks for it to go another month.
so either one, I mean, personally, I think if the recommendation is to go to Pond, I think it's gonna be a fairly short discussion. That the recommendation is to continue to keep it at Maple, then we're gonna end up having a lengthier version of the conversation we're having right now. But with some more context and feedback. So I'm just wondering, in the interest of efficiency and not to cause staff any grief, is that if they have a view on this, let's make sure that I would think that if they updated the document, updated the report to reflect some of that feedback, I think that'd be worth a half an hour edit of the document.
Yeah, that's actually easy enough to do with them on, so if the mover and secretary want to say that the report be updated and provided to the March 10th meeting as opposed to just deferred. Eric can make sure that's what's recorded, I'm happy to do that. I do agree it would help expedite things, because right after 2 years, you would send it back and then I bring it on to the first, we do another month, so.
Yeah,
Let's get to it, yeah.
Is the mover in agreement with that? Yes. And second.
Updated and deferred, yes.
yeah, updated.
And- Okay.
Eventually,
We're good.
but then we'll get.
Okay,
our
there's still
option.
reason to have, like, it's great, people know about it, it gives a chance for people to give some feedback. Those are procedurally silly things to throw in there, but.
All those in favor, signify by. Opposed, here. The motion is carried. Thank you. We just staff reports, we are going to item 8, council items, and Councilor Carter, you have some community rules. Yes, I do. So this is the second time that Communities in Bloom is, at least in the past few years, launched a major project. We were very active in 2024 as a pilot project. And in 2025, we took a year off. After having really had a successful year in 2024 with 4 blooms out of 5 awarded by the judges and a couple of national awards for volunteerism and heritage projects. So there were some recommendations made by the judges and also by the town to formalize the group's organizational structure, and so rather than going fully into organizing as a society, it was decided possibly as a temporary move to be subsumed under the Mahone Bay Tourism and Chamber of Commerce to have the benefit of their society status and also insurance coverage from that organization. Communities in Bloom, as a national organization, requires the support and participation of the local governing body. And in deliberating this request, I would ask council to consider that apart from the benefits of heightened civic engagement, and pride that communities in bloom focus on climate and environment issues directly aligned with the town's strategic priorities. By participating, the town will benefit from the judge's feedback on such things as tree management, green spaces, and other environmental issues. And it has been shown that other communities have reported significant financial benefits from participation by virtue of not having to contract out services and essentially getting almost free services from the expertise of the judges who evaluate the community. And one study for one community showed that the rate of return on the municipality's investment of funds and in-kind services was 270%. And that took everything into account, volunteer hours and so on. So it's significant, the benefits. So with all that in mind, I move that council direct staff to register the town of Mahone Bay in the 2026 Communities in Bloom Atlantic edition, the evaluated population category, paying the registration fee in the amount of $495, with an accompanying letter indicating that Mahone Bay's 2026 participation represents a collaboration of town and community groups, and further to provide ongoing agreed upon services and materials in kind.
Seconded by Councilor Wilson, thank you, discussion. Any further question? Okay, so
I
we've
just want-
discussed this many times, so,
Yeah, we have, it's been a work in progress.
Yes.
Probably to, maybe a more formal kind of relationship. I just want to say that the communities in the Bloom group has had its first meeting, and you can't describe the energy in the room, in the group, and the passion to get things done. It's really exciting.
well, that's good to hear. Okay, so, all those in favor, signify aye. Opposed, nay,
Mayor,
the
I'd also,
motion is carried.
Mayor, I'd also like to, make a notice of motion
Yes.
of the next meeting where, at the next meeting, I'd like to, move that the council formally appoint Council Carver as the council liaison, with Communities in Bloom, committee and organization, and that'd be our intermediary between council and that organization for 2026.
Charlie, you agree with that?
Or was it just a notice?
Yes.
So whether or not I agree.
We want to make sure that.
I appreciate the gesture.
And
Okay, do we have a second to that one?
this is just a notice.
Oh, just a
a
notice.
notice, right.
Well, we look forward to that being.
There, as well under the subject, I mean, I did have a discussion with some of the, the communities in Bloom, Talking Trees, the Mahoney Garden Club, team that was at the candidates debate. And I do think that it's worthwhile for us to be able to communicate formally the significant financial contributions that are occurring to that agenda around beautification, around the waterfront project. I mean, I think we talked about this at the last meeting, but I don't know if the totality of the planting and landscaping budget is kind of well known to the community. I think it would really put people's mind at ease that the project is receiving such significant financial support. So, I mean, that might be worthwhile for us to pull together a quick note that we can share, just make sure everybody's on the same page with the funding that's inside the harbor kind of core budget, but then augmented by the incremental budget that we talked about at the last, I don't know, when was that? Was that policy and strategy, or was that the last time we did a review as the
At council.
council meeting? But
So as far as all that goes, and I know I've referenced it recently in other contexts, that we are planning shortly to get landscaping group together to go over.
oh, good.
Requirements for topsoil and fill, things like that, if the garden club has plantings that they're responsible for, or the chamber does. That we have within our scope whatever gets them to the point where they can then take over, whatever they were expecting to take over. And then we will have to take the areas for plantings that are not assigned to one of these other groups. And they will be the responsibility of the town, and then go out for external quotation on those to kind of confirm what we can accomplish within that budget. And then presumably all of that ends up being a welcome announcement sometime in the next 2 months. That Claire Louise may be able to put that in the format that people are more able to, because there's all the picnic tables and benches councils decided upon, there's these green spaces, there's a lot to look out for in the next, final phase of Edgewater. So definitely an update we want to share.
Councillor Lewis?
Yes, to that end, I'm wondering if it would be helpful to pull together a report that brings all these disparate sources of income, and sources of budget. Into one report that says this is how much money in total we're planning to spend on the. Like I said, the foliage and the sodding and all the stuff that we're gonna do, including the airport and so on, all the stuff that we're doing. As the sort of final phase, would that be possible?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's just a matter of putting the budget context in and the actual plans in the same document. Like some people only care about the money spent and not what it's achieving. Other people care about what's being achieved. They aren't looking for the numbers. And it's just about, I think, having both of those things in perspective. So Eric, I'm sure you're thinking of stuff out there at least to take this forward, and so am I.
Yeah, because if I may, it's the money that's in the project itself.
Yeah.
Which is whatever it is, and then there's town money that's separate, I think.
Yeah.
And then there's art money that's separate again, I suspect, and certainly.
Yeah, the big difference is like Harbor and CBCL, what are they being paid versus little things that we're doing outside of that with other contractors.
Exactly.
Yeah, kind of the global story.
This doesn't include children.
Well, so the shoreline protection planting is within the harbor scope, even though, it's interesting, this flow through where a lot of that one goes back, coastal action could be active procurement and planting. So that's sort of to Joe's point, like it's confusing to people, where's coastal action getting the money for their stuff? Well, they got a grant, they gave the town the money, we paid Harbor pays them. It's the money that they got a grant for. So at the end of the day,
It's
goes
like,
around the circles.
it's like the circular budget, it's running AI stuff like that.
Yeah, put gas in it.
Yes, when I first heard Councillor Peters' comments about how much money the town is spending on beautification, I was thinking of it in a global sense, the whole town, the whole geographical town, not just the Edgewater project. Because there's a lot of beautification happening in the cemeteries, for example, and other places. So I think that that's also of value to know. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite satisfied with the amount of money being invested in getting us from like the concrete and the rocks and the curbs. And then now we're talking about the topsoil and the grass and the plants and the flowers. And so that last part about the topsoil, the grass, the flowers, the trees, I mean, that requires a big investment. And I'm personally satisfied with the amount that we have allocated. I just think that is a number that we should communicate to the community, because I think the community doesn't want to see an unfinished project. And there's, I think it will give them comfort by saying, oh yeah, okay, now that the concrete's poured, the beautiful stuff is coming next, and it's fun. It's not, it won't be delayed. And whether it all happens before the communities in bloom on the 9th of July, we'll see. But I mean, hope springs eternal that it'll be done by then.
yes.
Anyways, it's all good news. It's just the message about communication there, that was the theme we heard the other night.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. We've had discussion and we look forward to the motion the next council meeting. We're going on to committee reports, and policy and strategy was a very full meeting, let's say that. We used all our meeting time plus in discussions and tweaking some of the bylaws that already exist. So Is there any discussion over that?
There are a few items that kind of spun out of that meeting. The first being that the committee recommended to council to provide first reading for the new seasonal sales area bylaw, and I'm wondering, this might be the appropriate time to do that. For council to provide first reading.
Yeah, so I mean, the recommendations on all of these documents from Policy and Strategy is to give first reading, it would probably be better to do them individually. So, you know, if you wanted to next form, would consider seasonal sales areas getting first reading with the brand new bylaw, but then the other ones would be getting first reading as amended.
Fair enough, so why don't I start there? You okay?
Yeah, that would be fine, except I wanna ask you now if I can do a comment about the actual minutes of the policy and strategy committee before going on.
Yes.
Which is that, just a request, if we can have an updated list of pending topics on the strategy, policy and strategy committee. Just to be sure, I know that some months ago, there was a motion, I made a motion that was approved by council to add parameters of closed session discussions to policy and strategy committee. But yet I don't see it on the list of pending items, so. That's a
An
long-winded way of
You
saying.
would like to see an updated list of pending items.
These have been referred,
Okay.
until I'm a little concerned that some things might be getting lost.
Okay,
Um.
well, that list continues to grow.
it
Can
absolutely
we
does.
make sure we have that for our?
Yeah, that's noted. Thank you.
You still have 11 months this year after.
Yeah, I know, but things build up pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
Mayor, with that, just to start things off, this is the first, as Dylan mentioned, the first new bylaw, but I move that council give first reading for the new seasonal sales area bylaw. As it's been amended in the package to reflect the path of travel requirement.
There's second. Now's it, Beverly?
I'll second it, and I also have a question, so. About 13 G. This. So as I understand it, early in this. Draft bylaw. It stated that the existing past pedestrian. The existing sidewalk would be maintained with a minimum. 5'3" passageway for pedestrians. So that I have an image now of business sidewalk, seasonal sales area. But yet 13D describes a fence or barrier along the street side of the sidewalk of the I've shrunk my document here, I can't see the whole thing. Small packet.
You did only
There
that ones.
Okay, a fence or barrier must be installed along the street side of the sales area to delineate the edge of the structure and prevent pedestrians from entering the street. So I can't picture that.
So there isn't a requirement for separation of the path of travel from the sales area, like we didn't say you have to have a barrier between those two things, because in many cases, that's just gonna be a couple of tables.
Yeah.
Or maybe even some racks of products, so the barrier's still on the outside to prevent people who are now out in the roadway on a temporary
I see.
structure from ending up in the roads. You know, we didn't have to include that, like. You could have essentially removed the requirement for the barriers at both ends and the barrier on the side. Because it is no longer pedestrians, it's only customers who are in there, but at the same time, they're still in the road. So it was felt that was still proof.
So your worship, in my mind, the phrasing prevent pedestrians, the word pedestrians, suggest people who are walking.
I grappled
As
with
opposed,
the
as opposed to sitting or standing, in a seasonal sales area. So,
Yeah, we can change this statement. I grappled with the term of what we should call it, you know.
That's a good edit.
Yeah.
the-
Personally, I think just people, because it could be
People, yeah.
pedestrians, it could be
Yeah.
patrons, could be customers, it's all of the above,
I
so
think
just
it's
an edit
That's
to,
changed by
yeah.
Eric, but I was making a mistake.
yeah, just an edit to people should suffice.
Oh,
by
yes.
So while we're at that, we on C, 13C, this is my fault, it says at the end of that sentence, duration of the temporary sidewalk, and it should say duration of the seasonal sales area. That's just a typo.
right, yeah. Yes,
Yeah, that was just in the changes we were making.
Okay.
That's a good edit. So as amended.
As a
Or-
minute.
Yeah, the new one as amended versus the amended one. Yeah.
When you agree, Councilor Carroll.
yes, I certainly do, and there is a tiny typo in number 14, just. In the second line. Traffic is required if the business, not how the business.
If, make. Clean that up at the same time.
Russia, I'm still, struggling with, D part 3. Which says that the barrier shall not have an opening greater than 13 millimeters. I'm not even sure how you do that. Physically, I guess you could do it with really close woven chicken wire or some sort, but otherwise, I mean, you've got some very tiny openings.
That must be 7.
13, well,
No.
it says 13 millimeters.
No, it's not, I double checked the
Yeah,
accessibility
exactly.
standards and it is millimeters.
Really?
I think if, and this is just an assumption, which is sometimes dangerous to do, but if the barrier is made of vertical slats, the gaps between those can't exceed 13 millimeters, or if it's, right. So you're perfectly right, if it's not slats, it could be something like chicken wire, maybe not a suggested material to use. However, I digress. But yeah, I did check the accessibility standards and it is 13 millimeters, and it was reiterated in this document just because it does seem a little questioning. You know, you look at it and to your point, it doesn't seem,
And it certainly wasn't the
Reasonable.
case last year.
No, well, that and the edge protection are a big change, and like ultimately, even though that is a requirement for accessibility. The provincial requirement for accessibility applies that to a temporary sidewalk, and then we would extend that now into a, we're saying for sales area. So, you know, notionally, we're not required to have that 13 millimeter clause. But consistency with the temporary sidewalk guidelines that are now in our streets and sidewalks bylaw, it seemed worth including and just having the same standards to both.
so essentially your barrier is gonna have to be solid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
All right, all those in favor, signify aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried, Councilor Dean.
Excuse me, do we have a date for the hearing? Yes, we do, have a date for the hearing, but do we not? I haven't, my book.
After we did these 4 motions, I was gonna say we do the motion setting a hearing for all 4. We did pick a date.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
we need a month.
Yeah, but rather than putting it as all 4 motions, because at the first reading motion, we have to be days.
Mayor, as you know, had a really productive meeting.
Yeah.
Earlier, late last month. We also have an amended streets and sidewalk bylaw.
Yeah.
And it also moved that moved to first reading.
Okay, so there's second.
Second.
Councilor Wilson, thank you. Any discussion? Councilor Fairview?
This is a housekeeping item to number 49. Where it's about encroaching with vegetation. So abutters shall trim the branches with trees, hedges, bushes, and other shrubbery. That encroaches from the abutting property over a street. To prevent the fire from interfering with the property. But I wonder why it's over a street, whether it might be. Or beside, when it could be over or beside the street. Because when it's over a street, it's like it's. Whereas the side street is right here, so that I can't see around it. Yep. Does anybody else see after that? I guess my doing.
Like the theme was sightlines versus,
yes, exactly.
versus tree trimming to eliminate. You know, storm damage,
Mm-hmm.
right, on power lines, so. Whether it encroaches or not, the theme of the clause was really around visibility, wasn't it?
It's like,
Yeah, I'm trying to confirm if the wording is lifted straight from the MPA, because this is a clause that is derived from the MPA versus. Did we actually pick that wording?
For some people have. You have a barrier, with bushes, you know, trying. That encroaches on the right of way. And,
Yeah.
that happens clearly.
right, but the lead in. Is over the street, and that doesn't encroach on the right of way, it may overhang, that's why I'm suggesting that in addition of over or beside.
If you have a little line that climbs up over here.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a better change. The MPA isn't that specific, it's just remove the trim, you remove or trim the tree or shrub. Hedgerow vegetation, then the opinion of the engineer is a source of danger to the tree, so it is actually a bit broader. So Eric may be over by beside adjacent to, we'll pick one of those terms.
Okay. Ready for the vote? All those in favor, signify out. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried.
Well, when we're at it, how about we move, that, council, have first reading on the special events bylaw.
Okay, now, Carver, seconding it, thank you, but is there any discussion? No, okay, calling to the question, all those in favor, signify out. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried, and that's
And finally, the temporary vending bylaw was discussed, with last month. And there's some edits, and I moved that, wants to provide first reading to the updated temporary vending bylaw.
Thank you, there's second. Council Wilson, thank you. Any discussion, Council Carter.
Under definitions, number 3. D, crosswalk. It means the portion of the street that is designated for pedestrians to cross. Marked by painted lines. At an intersection or areas where sidewalks meet. On opposite sides of the street. But it should have been crosswalk as opposed to sidewalks. I mean, the sidewalks don't meet
The crosswalk meets the sidewalks.
where areas where a crosswalk meets the sidewalk. So it needs.
A little refining.
Yeah. Thank you.
What calls those things like?
Definitions, 3D. The very last line.
So the move and second, and agreement with that?
Yeah.
Okay, ready for the question? All those in favor, signify out. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. So, now that these have been passed, we have a date set for the public hearing of Councilor Carter.
So, your worship, I would move that we hold public hearing. For these 4 bylaws. On February 24th. At 7 p.m.
And
Somewhere.
and what is it? Do we know yet?
I guess we don't, location to be determined is fine.
Oh, location.
We do have to determine today, because it has to be advertised today. So,
Yeah.
I'm just,
Having here.
it's just whether we can fit it into the. They're big of that.
So
What night is it? Tuesday, there's no being volunteers.
I think it was Thursdays.
So we will probably hold it at the community center then, at the capacity.
6:30.
So,
7, at the fire. At the fire.
So just logistically though, these will have to be consecutive, right? Like we can't do these concurrently together. This will be 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes.
no, we didn't do currently.
Oh, yeah?
No, we didn't do currently. I mean, it's a hearing, so if
Yeah.
anyone wants to speak to them, we'll go in order. And we'll just be there as long as we need to hear any comments on the bylaw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And then it will-
24th at the community.
and then it will appear as a report on the agenda for council.
At the community room, the room.
Oh, in the community room.
Well, no, that's the thing, it'll probably be in the big room.
In the big room?
Yeah.
Yeah, the community room's too small.
Probably.
Well, it was cozy yesterday.
It was.
Those ads will go out today, so we'll get that said.
Okay.
All right, so is there any discussion?
You need a motion on the dates or?
Yeah, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, okay, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, signify by aye. Opposed? No. The
Mayor,
motion is carried.
there's a few other odds and ends. I moved the council appoint Trudy Richards to the planning advisory committee.
Okay, there's something to do.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
Where's that listed on the agenda? Sorry, I just.
It's out of the minutes of the strategy and policy.
Oh, right, yeah, thank you.
Okay, those in favor, signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The
There's.
motion is carried. Welcome, Judy, back to the PAC
There you
committee.
go. Mayor as well. I moved that Helga Baxter be appointed to the Heritage Advisory Committee.
Okay, there's something to do there. Council Kirby, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, not resolved in the question, all those in favor signify aye. Aye, opposed nay,
And
the
finally,
motion is carried.
sorry, and finally, I moved that Dean Nash be appointed to the Asset Management Committee.
So, and second by Council Kirby, thank you. I'll do the question, Council.
No,
Okay. All right, ready to the question, all those in favor
Eager to-
signify aye.
Everybody.
Opposed,
Minute
nay.
10.
The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Those were three housekeeping items that we really wanted to get done and in place, so.
Do we need to advertise, to motion to advertise for the other vacancies, or is that just part of the?
Following the election, we will be advertising the other vacancies and the formation of the new finance committee and the new audit.
Here, this earlier. TVs are very problematic, but.
Apologies.
Okay, so the, following the election, we will be advertising for vacancies. But we have those two new committees that, are waiting to be formed with this one.
Check device power. One turn on the device if the power is not turned on.
Okay.
Or select the connection icon. So we're
I
not.
didn't mean to reopen a can of fish. I'm sorry.
Okay, I will report on senior, the Lunenburg County Senior Safety Program, which I am affiliated to. We're, it's a very, very busy, organization here in Lunenburg County. And it's no wonder because of the number of seniors that we have in our population. We are still hoping to, we understand the Minister of Seniors has received our letter and we are waiting to see if we are able to get a meeting, to discuss, more support for our organization. So we are perfecting our elevator speech and our, depending on how long our meeting is and our presentation to the minister or whoever. If we can get in to see the deputy minister, we will do that as well. Okay. That's all of the reports, so them to report. Make a motion to follow, please. That was the, it was fine, right? For sure.
And we're going to receive the report from the senior safety program report for information.
Okay, seconded. Okay, Councilor Green, all those in favor signify aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. New business, I don't see anything here, but is there something coming up from the table? And we will take, are there any questions or comments? Oh, we do have one in the gallery.
I'm just wondering if council is aware of the importance of LC Wheels to the actual nursing home. As having my mother there, we used to use the ambulance. Well, that was disaster, we'd make appointments and then they would get busy. So LC Wheels is a lifeline for the residents because the nursing home does not have a bus system themselves. It is a profit nursing home. And so if a bus was deemed necessary, it would be up to the families to raise the money. So LC is a lifeline. We used it for mom, she's wheelchair bound. Can't get her in our car anymore, and for medical appointments. So just to be aware that that is a lifeline for a lot of the residents. And I would like to see that used more for the Scarecrow Festival on Father Christmas. Other nursing homes that had their own buses were in the town of Mahone Bay, while the residents of Mahone Bay were in the building, which is very sad. They're not guaranteed another day. So I think that there's more that needs to be done at that site, but trying to get anything, and we've had a lot of changes in management up there as well. So as a family member, I'm just sort of sitting, waiting and hoping that things improve even more for the residents. Whenever I see a post of a nursing home doing something wonderful, I take recreation in it, and I'm getting tired of it. But there are things that can be done that don't cost a lot of money. But when you have people in positions that have no formal training in that position, it puts them at a disadvantage because they don't see what the residents actually need. Type thing. I mean, there are weeks that my mother, because she's in a wheelchair, doesn't get to activities because they don't have enough staff, and of course, not enough volunteers, once again. So just to make you aware of how important that LC is to those residents acting in your city.
Do family have to accompany them if they need?
LC Wheels, yes.
Yeah. All right, any questions on
Nothing on that.
nothing online? Okay, well, this was becoming online. Oh, fine.
There are 6 now, there were 8 a few minutes ago.
Well, I'm surprised with the
I'm here
Olympics.
this week.
I was watching the Olympics up until the time we won a silver medal before I left, so. In the speed skating, so I was excited to see that. So we are going to go into closed session. I will take a motion to go into
What street address?
closed session.
136.
Citing MGA 22 contract.
As well as personnel, which is MGA 22.
I don't have it.
Okay.
We'll let it after the minute.
Okay, all right. Seconder? Okay, Councilor Wilson, thank you. All those in favor, signify aye.
Bye.
Opposed, okay, we are now in closed session.